Check.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I will open tonight's meeting of the Lunenburg Select Board, Tuesday, August 9th, 2022, and ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Chair Michael Ray Jeffries is out, so I'll be guest hosting this week. And got to read the important blurb. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live over the Lunenburg Public Access channel on Facebook Live, on Public Access Facebook page, and will be uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel within 24 hours after the meeting. We are still doing hybrid Zoom meetings, and tonight's webinar ID, if you would like to join on one of your smart devices, is 909-174-0347. If you would like to join by phone, you can do so by dialing 888-475-4499. And again, the webinar ID 909-174-0347. Tonight's agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions.
Oops, sorry.
Recording in progress.
Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. So I would open up to the board if anybody on the board has any public comment.
I do have a public comment regarding Mr. Clark's comments last week. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Regarding Mr. Clark's comments last week. They reached out to me after the meeting and said that all of the Republican signs on Highland were taken down after he had spoke at our meeting, and they had to reach out to the police in regard to that. So I don't know if there's anything that we can do, but that is what they told me after the meeting.
Well, I can tell you that, my comment would be two things. First of all, no, there's nothing the select board can do. And number two is, of course, it's an egregious process, act that people shouldn't do, but it happens all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't condone it, and nor do the police, and they take it seriously, but, this is not the first town and the first election that signs were taken. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to make us aware that they were taken down the day after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
So anybody who has such an incident should report it to the police.
Yes, because they sent video to Chief Gamble, the video that they spoke of, Chief Gamble then asked for. And one of the signature forms that had foul language on it that someone wrote when collecting signatures as well. So, yeah.
Again, you can't police bad behavior.
No. Mm-mm.
Anybody else with a public comment?
I have none.
Mr. Franco.
Yes. I'm going to do this at the beginning of the meeting.
I was going to say pancake breakfast.
Before everybody gets tucked in for the evening. There'll be a pancake breakfast tomorrow at Eagle House from 8 to 11 a.m. That's August 10th, and courtesy of Lunenburg Lions. And if I could just build on that too, I find that if I could just comment on.
Absolutely.
When you do those, that's very disturbing to me, and it has nothing to do with who you support or who you don't support. When you do that, you're attacking democracy and speech, and I'll say that for in defense of people whose positions I completely disagree with, equally to the ones that I agree with. It's just not a patriotic American thing to do, and it's very disturbing to me. That's all.
I would concur. The only comment I have is that next Monday is the last band concert of the season. This is a makeup for the second week band concert that got rained out. And they're wonderful events, and I would encourage people to come by. I thank the Lunenburg Friendly Seniors for sponsoring yesterday's event. And in advance of Monday's last band concert, I really want to thank the conductor and the person who runs it, Steve Archambault, for doing a great job. And for all the band members and all the people who sponsor it and all the people who come out, it really is a great small-town event. As he pointed out last night, this region is really rich in that event, that there's town band concerts in Fitchburg, in Ashby, in Townsend, in Harvard, as well as Lunenburg. So this area is very rich in that, and it's a wonderful tradition. We didn't have that on Long Island where I grew up, and when we came here and were able to go, something my wife and I look forward to every season, and they've really been so good. I also want to thank the townspeople for able to just modestly increasing their funding so they could buy new music, and they performed a lot of that new music this year. In past years, they've been borrowing music from other libraries around the region, and now they're able to contribute as well, so that's been really, really good. So I encourage people to come to the last one next Monday in front of TC Passios at 7 p.m., weather permitting, of course. Any public comment from the public?
I have a comment.
Yes. You don't have a name, so please identify yourself first.
Thanks. This is Peter Beermore, 282 Pleasant Street. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, his
Yes.
picture. That's weird.
Okay. I apologize. I'm on the Zoom, and I'm also speaking through the telephone. I'm bandwidth limited tonight. I'd like to take a moment, and I think the members of this board know that I hold you all in very high regard, and I appreciate the work that you do for the town. I was disappointed in the conversation that occurred last week under communications with other boards pertaining to the Finance Committee's request for assistance from the town council. And I should specify tonight that I'm only speaking for myself. The Finance Committee has not met and will not meet until next Thursday. The letter that was sent to the town manager was sent by me on Wednesday, July 27th. And I did not receive a response back from the town manager until the previous, to the subsequent Wednesday. And I was not informed, nor was any other member of the Finance Committee informed that this topic would be brought to the Select Board under the heading of communication from other boards. It was a simple administrative request that was made to the town manager, which is entirely within her purview under your policies pertaining to use of town council. So aside from the fact that it wasn't really a communication to the Select Board from other boards, beyond that, the discussion was blown up well beyond the request to include the merits of the topic, as well as potentially how a potential article could be brought before town meeting, all of which, in my opinion, went beyond the limitations of the open meeting law, but also, was somewhat disrespectful to myself and to the members of the Finance Committee, again, in my opinion. I think you prejudiced yourselves on this issue. I think that some information was misrepresented and there was some speculation, and I don't think that it was appropriate, and I'm looking forward to an honest and vigorous debate on this topic when all sides can be fully heard. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. That topic is, of course, on our agenda tonight, again, for a full vote, as was requested last week. Any other public comment from the public on Zoom? I'm sorry for not seeing them here. I see none.
No.
Any announcements?
Just that the farmer's market, because I don't have a town manager's report for tonight, but I wanted to make sure the announcement about the farmer's market is every Sunday until September 25th, and the Historical Society building is open during the same hours.
Thank you. And that's from 10 to 12 on Sunday. Communication from other boards?
None.
Okay, we have an appointment at 7:10, a request for a Bicycles Battling Cancer ride for the American Cancer Society, September 24th. Mark Walters. Is Mark with us on Zoom?
I do not see Mark.
Do we have a request?
There is a request in the Google Drive.
Battling Cancer. Was he going to come in?
I did not confirm that with Elaine, so this has been
I
a,
think this is an ongoing
yeah,
one.
this is an ongoing
Okay, so we won't,
event.
I'm not going to postpone this, especially since it's in September. Is it, Select Person Soroka, are you familiar with Battle? Are you familiar with this
I read
ride?
all of this. yeah.
Okay, no, but are you familiar with this? This is a
No,
recurring?
I did not know that.
Okay, so
It's
this has
really
been
not-
ongoing for, this is probably the, I don't know, maybe the fourth year or thereabouts. And they cut across a small corner if their route is the same, well, they
Yeah,
show.
the route is in here.
Yeah, the route
It's
of
on the
map,
other side of Lunenburg.
it's usually limits to Shirley Road, so it's
Yeah.
exactly the same thing. So
But did you read Chief Gamel's comment?
I am reading it now. Yeah, they've never asked for any road closings because it's not a lot of traffic for this, especially at the time that this
Oh,
event
I was
is.
just looking at his side note.
Oh,
Regarding rethinking the route.
Yes,
Yeah.
because of construction on that.
well, this would be for Mr. Walters if he was here.
Yeah. Just
Well,
for-
let me ask, I mean, do we want to request that he be available and we won't approve this, or we would rather approve this and make him aware of?
Right.
He doesn't seem to say no.
Right, he just
He just
wanted-
seems to say, you know what, you may want to think
Right.
it.
Right. How many bikes usually participate? It said it, right? It was like 100?
Yeah, it's, there are about 150 to 225 cyclists
Wow.
in these rides. So there's, I don't know if all the routes, there's a 50, 70, and 100-mile route, and they start between 7:30 and 7:45 a.m. And these cyclists will come through this section of Lunenburg about 8:15 a.m. So,
So, Mr. Chair, my suggestion would be that we approve this tonight, and we just let the applicant know that if upon, reviewing Chief Gamel's suggestions, they elect to divert the route and reroute the ride, then they just come back and let us know that they're going to reroute and
Through
coordinate with the
Lunenburg, yeah.
chief.
well, I would ask
Yeah.
that we ask them to
Let us.
respond to us either way,
Okay.
that, no, we understood, we heard his concerns, but we're still going to go ahead with the route, or they're going to change it, and then they have to resubmit the route.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that works for me.
All right. Anybody else have any questions about this? They're all going to have proper signage, as they did. For those on TV who are listening in the audience, the 30-mile ride starts at 11. That's the short, so there's 4 different ones. 50, 70, and 100 start between 7:30 and 7:45, coming through Lunenburg about 8:15. And the 30-mile ride starts at 11 a.m., coming through Lunenburg around 11:30. They've done this, like I said, many years. There's probably about 2 miles of Lunenburg roads that they're using, and then they come up Fort Pond Road,
Yeah.
make a right on limits of Shirley, and go into Shirley. All right, if there's no more discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the proposed route for the Bicycles Battling Cancer ride on September 24th, contingent upon the applicant either confirming or resubmitting a route if they decide that they want to alter it due to the construction.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Passes unanimously. Can we have Elaine correspond with Mr.
Certainly.
Mr. Walter, right? Walters.
Walters.
Okay, 7:15, right on time. We have earth removal permits. So this is an annual event in our Google Drive. We have, basically, there's only 2 holders of permits in Lunenburg. There's PJ Keating's, who have several permits, and then we have the Proctors have the other one. The building commissioner has reviewed, and that's his review of all of the permits are in our Google Drive. As far as the PJ Keating Company earth permits, there's permit number 15. I don't have to read the exact location of these, right? At this point.
I would reference the permit number, just for the record.
Yeah, I'm going to reference the permit number. Well, I'm going to read this. Therefore, it's all in the record. It also practices my reading skills. So, from Casey Burlingame, who is our building commissioner and zoning officer from July 26, 2022. This is on the PJ Keating Company earth removal permits. An inspection of the premises at 998 Reservoir Road, known as PJ Keating, took place on July 25th, 2022. The purpose of this inspection was to ensure the language and conditions of the 6 earth removal permits were being met, so renewals could be granted by the Select Board. Present at this inspection were the Vice President of Aggregate Operations, Robert Robinson, and Town Building Commissioner Zoning Officer Casey Burlingame. So permit number 15, this permit covers an area used as an overflow yard and loading area. It covers an approximate 165-acre parcel of land located northerly of Leominster Shirley Road and westerly of Reservoir Road. This permit has 6 listed instructions and conditions. Condition 6 has subconditions A, B, C, D, E, and F. A general overview of the conditions is concerns regarding maintaining a buffer zone, maintaining grade level slopes from property lines, establishment of vegetation on said graded areas, and maximum depth of excavation. During my site visit, I found these conditions to be met and satisfactory. Recommendation, okay to renew. Permit number 16. This permit covers an area used as an aggregate processing area and asphalt plant. It covers an approximately 170-acre parcel of land located northerly of Leominster Shirley Road and easterly of Reservoir Road. This permit has 8 listed instructions/conditions. Condition 6 has subconditions A, B, C, D, E, and F. A general overview of the conditions is concerned regarding maintaining a buffer zone, maintaining grade level slopes from property lines, establishment of vegetation on said graded areas, and maximum depth of excavation. During my site visit, I found these conditions to be met and satisfactory. Recommendation, okay to renew. Permit number 17, this permit covers an area used for recycling purposes. It covers an approximately 180-acre parcel of land located southerly of Leominster Shirley Road and easterly of Fort Pond Road. This permit has 7 listed instructions/conditions. Condition 7 has conditions A, B, C, and D. A general overview of the conditions is concerned regarding maintaining a buffer zone, maintaining grade level slopes from property lines, establishment of vegetation on said graded areas, and maximum depth of excavation. During my site visit, I found these conditions to be met and satisfactory. Recommendation, okay to renew. Permit 27, this permit covers an area used for recycling purposes. It covers an approximately 57-acre parcel of land located in the very southeast corner of Lunenburg. This permit has 6 listed instructions and conditions. Condition 6 has subconditions A, B, C, and D. A general overview of the conditions is concerns regarding maintaining a buffer zone, maintaining grade level slopes from property lines, establishment of vegetation on said graded areas, and maximum depth of excavation. During my site visit, I found these conditions to be met and satisfactory. Recommendation, okay to renew. Permit number 30, this permit covers an area used for recycling purposes. It covers an approximately 28-acre parcel of land located in the southeast corner of Lunenburg. This permit has 5 listed instructions/conditions. Condition 5 has subconditions A, B, C, and D. A general overview of the conditions is concerns regarding maintaining a buffer zone, maintaining grade level slopes from property lines, establishment of vegetation on said graded areas, and maximum depth of excavation. During my site visit, I found these conditions to be met and satisfactory. Recommendation, okay to renew. And finally, permit number 57. This permit covers the main quarry. It effectively replaced permits number 14, 18, and 42. This permit covers an approximately 30-acre parcel of land located westerly of Fort Pond Road and southeasterly of Leominster Shirley Road. This permit has 4 listed instructions/conditions. Condition 3 has subconditions A, B, C, D, and E. The general overview of the conditions is concerns regarding maintaining a buffer zone, minimizing dust and noise, and traffic concerns. During my site visit, I found these conditions to be met and satisfactory. Recommendation, okay to renew. Sincerely, Casey Burlingame, Building Commissioner, Zoning Officer of the Town of Lunenburg. Does anybody on the board have any questions about the PJ Keating permits?
We have a number of people from PJ Keating on Zoom as well.
Okay. Do they have anything they want to add? Guessing not. Yep,
Yes.
go ahead.
This is Rob Robinson from PJ Keating, VP of Aggregates. We're on just to hear if there was any questions or anything that was going to be brought up tonight.
Okay. Not from my dramatic reading of this report. Okay, so yes, does anybody have any questions?
I have none.
Okay, so I'm going to go on because I guess we can take a motion on these. We'll do them individually. Anybody want to make a motion on the
Sure.
6 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 permits for PJ Keating?
It's going to be a 12-month renewal.
Yes.
I move to renew the 6 permits for PJ Keating, permits number 15, 16, 17, 27, 30, and 57.
I have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
I just want to say before we vote that, again, this is our customary action to ask the building inspector and zoning officer to inspect all these. They all come back clean. And so that would be, and having no other evidence to go on except his approval that they're following their permits, this is all we need as far as I'm concerned. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Okay. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Then we have the second one, which is is this under you personally, or is it under William J. Proctor? It is, okay, so under Dan and Jean Proctor at 1325 Massachusetts Avenue. Again, July 26th letter from Casey Burlingame, the building commissioner. And his report reads, an inspection of the premises at 1325 Massachusetts Avenue took place on July 26, 2022. The purpose of this inspection was to ensure the language and conditions of the earth removal permit was being met, so a renewal could be granted by the select board. Present at this inspection were the landowner representative, Ryan Proctor, and the building commissioner, zoning officer, Casey Burlingame, and the land use director, Adam Burney. Pertaining to permit number 60, this permit is for an approximately 5.75 acre parcel located on the north side of Massachusetts Avenue. Permit restrictions included establishing and maintaining a buffer zone, no rock crushing on site, depth of excavation limitations, and screening of topsoil limitations. The pond excavation is complete, grade bottoms have been established, and rough grading is complete. The pond area vegetation has been established. The berm in the rear of the property is complete with grass growing. There was approximately 7,000 cubic yards removed off-site this year, with the need up for an approximate additional 3,000 yards to be removed. The applicant states he intends on having the remainder of the material removed off-site before winter. Recommendation, allow for renewal of permit. And again, sincerely, Casey Burlingame, building commissioner. So again, any questions?
No.
From the board? Any questions from the public?
I just had a comment. So I believe this would, after the removal of the remaining material, you'll need to close out this permit? Is that correct?
So I guess that would be my question to the board, because the game plan is obviously to move phase 2, which is develop that property commercially. So yes, if I have to close out the earth removal, so then that takes the select board out of the picture, then that's what I would do.
Yes.
Once I move to phase 2, if additional material has to come out for phase 2, then that would be more of a
That would be a site review.
a building,
Yeah.
site removal, that type
That
of
would be
stuff.
the planning board, yes. So
Exactly.
it would be best, it would be just cleanest if the earth removal was done, and then anything that needed to be done would be on the development process
Part of
with
it,
the
that's
planning board.
correct.
Yep.
So that's what I would do then.
Yep.
Yep.
So my recommendation to the board would, if you're going to vote to renew it, would be to ask Mr. Proctor to come back for any closure stipulations for the closure of the permit.
Right, well, that would make sense.
So when I get to that point, I'll just come back and
Yep.
see you again one more time.
Yeah, just so we would, I mean, you'd have to the next year, so, but if you
Yep.
want to close it earlier. then-
Yeah, no, exactly. Economically driven,
Right.
fuel prices, everything.
I hear you.
Mr. Chair, I just want to say that in the 2 years you've had this permit, the Proctors went through a rigorous process to get this permit, and a lot of people were concerned about it, but I have to say, I drive by the site all the time, and you've done an excellent job keeping the site tidy and keeping, material from going on the roadway, and I think you really did a good job of making sure that it didn't become a real issue for the surrounding residences that are there, so.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I want to say that when this initially came up for the initial permit, I asked the building commissioner and I asked the applicant if there were any violations, because he's had earth removal permits in town before, and of course there were none. And so, I never quite understood why it was so rigorous, to use your word. But I'm glad that it was done, and it's not a surprise to me that it was done with, the attention to the detail and the attention to the causes of potential complaints that it was handled with. And I want to thank both you and Jean for, handling that all with grace.
So
Let me
one of
just
my
say that.
biggest critics drives by about 20 times a day, so if I didn't do a good job, I'd hear from him.
Thank you, though.
Thank you.
All right, if there's no more discussion, I would entertain a motion regarding permit number 60 for Dan and Jean Proctor at 1325 Massachusetts Ave.
I move to renew earth removal permit number 60 in the names of Dan and Jean Proctor as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Two.
Okay, interviews, appointments, reappointments, resignations. We have select board appointment of election officers, terms to begin September 1st through August 31st, 2023. And they are as follows. As warden, Glenn Reinhardt, Republican. Deputy warden, Ann Shattuck, Republican. Clerk, Darlene Steele, Democrat. Clerk, Judy Halley, Democrat. Inspector, Susan Andrews, Democrat. Deputy Inspector, Joanne Bergeron, Democrat. Inspector, Jane Ranley, Republican. And Deputy Inspector, Lorraine Rudd, Republican. And these are all chosen by the town, the Republican and Democratic town committees?
Yes.
Okay.
That letter's in there as well.
Does anybody have any questions about these appointments? They are for 1 year, as I have read. Election worker appointments, recommendations, let's see, so, yep, so those are the recommendations that I've just read. And these are per Mass General Law, Chapter 54, Section 12. That's the section that these election officials are appointed under. All right, if no further discussion, I would entertain a motion regarding their appointment.
I move to approve the appointment of the election officers as presented for a term running from September 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2023.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. It passes unanimously. Town manager appointment of a town clockwinder, Mr. John Lynch, 453 Page Street, term to expire June 30th, 2023. Somehow, I don't think we
Reappointment?
excuse me?
He's a reappointment?
Well, it's
then?
not a reappointment because his appointment officially expired.
Oh, okay.
So it is just an appointment.
Oh,
But
okay.
his somehow, we didn't get a response back.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if there was an email issue, but we did contact him and he contacted us. And so Mr. Franco, as the head of the Clockwinders, reached out just to make sure Mr. Lynch wants to continue. So that is what this appointment is about.
Okay. I don't have any
Any
questions.
discussion?
Nope.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion regarding,
I do have a question.
yes,
Mr. Lynch was a previous clockwinder?
yes.
Yes.
With his expertise in watches and jewelry, do you think he'll be able to get the clock to chime
At the right
closer
time.
than 4 minutes to the top of the hour?
That is our hope, yes.
Yeah.
That is,
Okay, good.
his absence actually may be the problem why it hasn't been.
Okay.
Well, before I make the motion, which I would love to do, I'd like to address that. First of all, so the clock has a certain amount of creep on it during the course of a week, and it, of course, it's temperature dependent. In the winter, it runs faster because the pendulum is shorter, and you know the pendulum equation as well as I do, the period of a pendulum. So the shorter the pendulum, the higher the frequency. So it gains more time in the winter. So we do have someone who comes in quarterly to maintain the clock in a more detailed way, and he sets the beat and the period of the pendulum and all. He has been unavailable, and I just was in touch with him recently, within the last 3 weeks, actually. He's had some medical issues that are preventing him from getting up there. So we've been keeping it going with just our group. So one of the things that I've recommended is to take note how much it creeps during the week. It's about 6 minutes at this time. And divide that time in half and start on your winding day, which is Tuesday. Divide that time in half, start it 3 minutes slow, so that by 3 days or 4 days later, it's dead on, and then it's only 3 minutes fast by the next Tuesday. So that's what's happening. So we're cheating it with a little bit, rather than if you put it on time right now, it's going to be 6 minutes fast next week. So, anyway.
That was a lot of time just for a 4-minute waiver in the clock accuracy.
I had to defend the clock. They were under attack.
Now, is it being affected anyway? Because I do understand that the Earth actually gained a second and a half.
Yes, I did see that.
Yes, in fact, this 1898 model was atomic clock, retroactively fitted. So yes, we were able to keep that up with the atomic clock. So Thomas had some really, really forward-thinking engineers back then.
For 128 years old, which is what the current movements are right now, it's a miraculous piece of machinery. It really is.
It is beautiful. It is beautiful.
And anybody
Make a motion.
Yeah, I will make the motion. There is a video on this. There was a talk at the library a few years ago. I'll make an announcement on that next week. I gave that talk with Bill Tyler, so on that whole clock, the history of that clock. So I move to approve and appoint John Lynch, clockwinder.
Second.
Second.
Oh, sorry, term to expire.
The ratification.
It's a
My
ratification of the town
It's a
manager.
ratification. I'm blowing
Want to
this.
take this again?
I'm blowing this whole thing. I move to approve the town manager's appointment of John Lynch to the position of clockwinder. Term to expire, is it a year?
June 30th.
June 30th, 2023.
Have a second.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. It's unanimous. We really threw Lou for a loop there. He really got...
I wasn't expecting the clockwinders to come under
I'm
attack
sorry.
this evening.
I'm sorry.
under attack. Wow.
It wasn't meant to be an attack.
No.
Don't back away from it. Just
I know. I'm sorry, but I had to run in.
Sometimes
The
there can
clock
be some
was-
timely
I pulled in and
criticism.
it was chiming.
It is. I liked especially the fluctuating pendulum length and the physics and the equations behind that. It was very impressive.
It was a visual.
I think you should do a demonstration
So,
next week.
Yeah.
so what you're saying is the heat wave actually exacerbated
The time?
the effect this week.
Yeah, it should have slowed it down, but
Right. Like its effect on us, the
question's all
heat
of
makes
that
the clock
time.
go slower and tired. All right, no town manager report?
No report tonight,
Okay. Does that mean we get a double-length report next week?
probably.
Probably. Probably not, though. Okay, the old business, discussion of the 300th anniversary committee charge. 300th.
300.
The town in 2028 turns 300 years old. We had several charges from other towns, Concord, Barry, Milton, Norwood, and Whately. And we learned at that point that Whately was in the western part of the state. I remember that. So, has everybody read these?
Yeah, they're all very similar.
Yeah, well, that's because there's only so much an anniversary committee can do.
Right. Looked like Norwood just had a bigger committee.
I mean, I read through these and just like my reading of the earth removal permits, they all sounded
Yeah.
incredibly identical
Yeah.
or incredibly similar. Well, I'll say that Norwood's is more of a mission statement, so I'm going to take that
Yeah.
one out of it, but everybody else is, I like the, I like Concord's.
yes.
I mean, we could be totally uncreative and just adopt Concord's and just change the appropriate town and date of the anniversary. It says evaluate and make recommendation, well, I can read it. So the year, I'll read it as if it was,
Concord, is that what you're reading?
yeah.
Okay.
I won't read the intro, we'll write our own intro, but
Yeah.
it would be to evaluate and make recommendations on how the town should manage the commemoration of this historic event, the 300th year anniversary, oversee subcommittees created for their various purposes and to supervise and assist them in their functions, sponsor activities which commemorate and celebrate the place of Lunenburg in the history of our nation. That one probably is more toward Concord and
Yeah.
less toward
Yeah.
Lunenburg. But celebrate, you know, there are certain things, markings. Robert Treat Payne, who signed the Declaration of Independence, actually taught in town. So there are certain things that the Historical Society and Historical Commission would want to have known. And then recognize, well, this one again,
I don't know if we have.
we'd have to
rules.
adopt, we'd have to change number 4, because they talk about ideals, you know.
Yeah.
Who would like to take a shot at writing this for next meeting so we can actually approve it?
I'll do that.
Thank you. All right, so
Illegal.
Lou is going to come back to us with an amalgam of these.
Yep.
Those, so 1 and 2 and 3, Concord's seem to be fitting. Barry had the most points. Those are the 2 I would probably look to the most.
Yeah, that one was pretty good too.
Yeah,
Barry.
Barry's was
Yeah.
good. So those, and we trust your judgment, and I know your love of history of this kind, so it would be perfect.
Yeah, no,
And maybe at that point, we'll make sure that when it turns midnight on that date, this clock would ring at the right time, commemorating the 300th anniversary. So
I will,
start setting the fulcrum, you know, the pendulum length to make sure that it's perfect for that conditions that
we can
day.
tweak that. I will endeavor to keep this under 1,500 words.
Yeah, you're not getting paid by the word, so. In fact, you're not
Or the
getting,
hour.
you're not getting paid at all.
You're not even getting paid by the hour, so.
If you eliminate stuff like the party of the first part, you know,
Yeah,
you
right.
don't do any of that. All right, so Lou is going to come back to us
What meeting agenda should I,
next week.
can't be next week
That's-
because it's going to be, it's already packed,
And the 23rd.
23rd. Okay.
The 300th is racing, it's coming, so we can't put this off
Why
too
can't
much.
How many
be next
years
week,
do we
would you
have?
We have a
Five?
workshop
6
next
years.
week.
6, okay.
5.5.
I may even be
But we
having
do-
issues
it's a lot of
next
work.
week, so.
Oh, well, that's a different story. So,
The 23rd.
Do we have a meeting on the 23rd?
Yeah.
Yes, yep.
yeah, the 30th we don't. Okay. Current business, vote on the Finance Committee request to use town council to assist.
No, sign and purchase, the purchase and sale.
No, that got tabled.
Oh, that's right, that was removed. I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
yes,
I
I
did
should
read
announce
that.
it
I'm
publicly.
sorry.
That Unitil was not ready.
Okay, yeah.
Shocker.
Yes, I
Right.
think they'd lost power while they were writing it, so.
I forgot it was in there.
So that's tabled.
You're right.
So the current business is vote on the Finance Committee request to use town council to assist drafting proposed bylaw regarding amending the capital plan at town meeting. So when this came up through the communications last week, this was, the first thing I asked for is that put it on the agenda because it wasn't on the agenda to vote on, although we could, I feel, I felt that our discussion was valid and was not out of open meeting law. That's an opinion difference with public comment at the beginning of this meeting, but that notwithstanding, we are opening it up now and we can discuss it. So the issue came to us through a letter of the Finance Committee to town manager.
Right.
And the town manager wanted to bring it to us because we want, I guess, it wasn't as clear cut as she felt. I'll let you describe why you brought it to us
Right.
specifically.
I didn't think it was a routine request as far as providing a written opinion on interpretation or those types of things that usually come through our office. And it was also something that was unclear from the last town meeting, whether there was consensus of the board and town council is appointed for and works for the select board.
So that discussion last week notwithstanding, we're going to treat this like a new slate. I would like the discussion to only address the request of town council, not the merits of the article and what they're trying to do. And we can start the discussion about doing this. Mr. Beardmore has asked during the week for the policy, which we have a policy of access to town council that was provided. So we certainly have the ability, but Finance Committee is also a duly appointed board that should have access to town council,
Right.
office hours anyway.
Yep.
So I'll just start, Ms. Roker, if
Okay,
you
so
would
we're
like to.
just talking about access to town council.
Right,
Correct.
their request,
Their
not the
request.
article, not the content, just
Right.
the access.
But they should have access anyway. So basically, did they even have to come to us and ask us for access?
I guess that's debatable,
Right, so,
but it's before us.
right, it is before us. So because I think that they should be able to use town council because that's what it's there for. Correct?
Yeah, I would go.
Because we're not talking
go-
about what they're going for, right?
Right, well, I
Is
would
it-
go further and say that I thought that authorization from the board was necessary in this matter because council works for the board.
Okay.
And the policy is that requests to access town council come through the town manager and provide all the details. But it's, the typical requests are relative to that staff or committee's purview, and are usually opinions
Okay.
that council issues. This is a request to assist in drafting a bylaw
Okay.
regarding capital planning. So I think it did not fit really
Purview.
within the policy.
Okay.
So, one point.
And this has not.
Right.
Excuse me,
No,
and
no,
this
it's
has
okay.
not, this has not come up before, so
Right.
it's not like the town manager has
Right.
deferred to us, constantly. She felt that this
Warranted, yeah.
warranted
Yeah.
a closer scrutiny only because of the position and what was being asked. So again, to answer your question directly, I don't know. We could have a whole discussion
Yeah.
about whether
Yeah.
they needed to come to us, but they did.
Yeah.
And so we're here, and so this is good that we have the discussion.
Yeah.
So one of the points that was brought up last week that I agree with is because this is kind of an unusual request that isn't typically just asking opinion of town council. They're asking the assistance. The suggestion was made that they come with
A draft,
their best
yeah.
draft
Right.
of whatever proposed changes to the bylaw that they're proposing. And I think that's an excellent suggestion because it'll make the town council's time more productive because they can look at that and then suggest changes for them or review it and then send them back.
Well,
So-
would they suggest changes or just give them an opinion on how it reads?
No, I would hope that they would suggest changes if they
Yeah.
saw something.
Right,
I just,
okay.
it's just a difference between what Mr. Dwyer just outlined, is the difference between town council,
Drafting. Yeah.
listening to them, and then
Yeah.
them drafting, town council drafting the whole thing,
Yeah.
or, come with don't come with a lump of clay, come with something that's somewhat formed, and then, okay, we can refine it as needed to make sure the language is what they want.
Okay.
Yeah, on the limited question of access to town council for these purposes, I would also be in support of that, as
Mr. Dwyer.
specified by Mr. Dwyer.
I
Those
al-
conditions.
I also have no problem with this. I also question, as you did, Ms. Roker, about whether or not they needed to come to us, but, again, a duly appointed body that is asking for assistance. I should note to the people listening that we asked town council if this would cost anything, so it doesn't even cost us. It's covered under our retainer policy, so of course we should, offer it and allow them access to it, so.
With the draft.
Right, as
As
specified,
by
right,
Mr.
as
Dwyer.
specified by Mr. Dwyer, and I
Okay.
completely concur with his
Yeah.
reasoning and his proposal.
Well, if I can add one more
Sure.
comment. Knowing how the finance committee works and the membership there, I fully imagine that their intent was to come with something drafted already. So I don't want them to take it as, we didn't think they'd be prepared. It was just, we're offering that suggestion. I'm sure they probably already follow it.
Fair enough, yeah. Nobody should take that as an editorial
Right,
about what we
right.
assumed they would do anyway. So it's just a proposal
Yes.
with no preconsideration, yes.
Right.
Anybody on the call from the Finance Committee want to speak to this at all?
I see his face, but I don't see his phone number.
I know he's had.
There he is.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm back.
There
Hopefully
he
you
is.
can hear me. I have no additional comments. I appreciate your extending their availability. The additional condition, I think that puts an onus on me to review proposed language with the Finance Committee, which does slow us down a little bit because of our meeting schedule, but not so much that it's going to really amount to a hill of beans in terms of getting this done. So I think, I personally, again, speaking only for myself, I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I would entertain official motion on this request, just to close it out.
Move to approve this request as submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None, it is unanimous. Okay, next, we have a vote on the special town meeting date being proposed at November 15th, 2022 at 7 PM, and the opening and closing dates for the warrant, which are recommended at August 23rd to open and September 20th to close, both at, closes at 5 PM. Opens on, I'm assuming, the opening of business on August 23rd?
Yes.
Okay. So, would you like to present this, Madam Town Manager? Is there something to present?
There's really
just
not
the
much
date,
to present.
right?
These are dates that I circulated as far as the date of the special town meeting, that make sure all the relevant public officials could be in attendance on that date, and everyone responded that they were available. And the opening and closing dates, that allows for enough time for people, especially announcing it now, for people to start thinking of the possible warrant articles that they were looking to submit in time to draft them and get them in time.
Okay. August 23rd is what day of the week? Is that a Monday?
It's a Tuesday, it's one of our meetings,
Yeah, it's coming up.
2 weeks.
2 weeks from today. Okay, and September 20th, I'm assuming is a Friday, or is that also a Tuesday?
No, it's
I
a
don't have
Tuesday as well.
Okay, so they're both Tuesdays, all right.
They're all Tuesdays.
Every day is a Tuesday.
So that will leave about 4 weeks. So 4 weeks for submission of articles and then a 4-week period for review. That would be on your agendas thereafter.
And do you have the calendar in front of you?
I do not
mute
have it in front of me.
Yeah,
What-
I actually
What date were you?
can't.
When is the last date we have to make recommendations before it goes to printing? That's what I was asking.
4 weeks after, so I think it was the 18th, October 18th, thereabout.
Okay. Sounds good. Anybody have any we need to vote on this, so in case there's any other questions, I would entertain a motion on these dates, the dates of the actual town meeting and the open and closing dates for the warrant.
I move to approve the special town meeting date proposed as November 15th, 2022 at 7 PM, and the opening and closing dates for the warrant of August 23rd and September 20th at 5 PM.
Do I have a second?
Second? Oh, that's both.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. It is unanimous. Number 3, letter from the Board of Registrars regarding required action by the board related to the Votes Act. Okay, what are we getting from them? So, is this a letter I should read?
I would say yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Some more reading.
Maybe make the clerk do it.
Clerk, does the clerk want to read it?
I was just about to offer to do that.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
I'm just trying to find it.
It's a BOR, memo from BOR.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, yeah, there it is, yep. Okay. So, August 3rd, 2022, from registrars of voters to the Select Board. Regarding changes to state election laws. On June 22nd, 2022, an election reform law titled the Votes Act was signed into law. Among other things, the law made many of the temporary changes from the pandemic permanent. Effective immediately, the law regarding assignment of police officers at polling places is amended to require the Select Board to assign police officers and constables to polling places. Previously, this was the responsibility of the Chief of Police. Since this change is taking effect before the primaries, the state has reminded us that we needed to communicate with your board in order to vote at a summer meeting before September. As our elections budget is already stretched thin, we as registrars would like the Select Board to consider the option of constables at our elections in the hopes that this small change will reduce one of our election expenses. The registrars have no power to make this change. As registrars of voters, our budget and handling is determined by federal, state, and local laws and schedules. If the Select Board does not want to use constables, then the registrars recommend the following. Motion. Move to approve a sufficient number of police officers, but not less than one, at the polling location at every election therein to preserve order and to protect the election officers and supervisors from any interference with their duties and to aid in enforcing the laws relating to elections as required by Section 72, Mass General Laws, Chapter 54, which was changed in Section 13 of Chapter 92 of the Acts of 2022. Further, move to designate the police chief the authority to assign specific police officers according to scheduling and availability. The town clerk will advise the police chief on the location and time the officer is needed. For local elections, towns may choose to have in-person early voting. To opt in to early voting for local elections, at least 2 registrars need to recommend it, and the Select Board must then vote to authorize in-person voting. At the registrar's meeting on July 22nd, 2022, it was voted to not recommend early voting due to the expense that absentee voting is available. Actually, let me read this part too. Acts of 2022, Section 13. Said Chapter 54 is hereby further amended by striking out Section 72 as so appearing and inserting in place thereof the following section. Section 72. The Select Board, Board of Selectmen, Town Council, or City Council of each city and town, in consultation with its election officers and registrars, shall detail a sufficient number of police officers or constables for each building that contains the polling place for one or more precincts at every election therein, to preserve order and to protect the election officers and supervisors from any interference with their duties, and to aid in enforcing the laws relating to elections. I think the point of putting this in here was to emphasize the authority to have either officers or constables.
Right, they were just putting the Section 13 that they cited in the letter.
Yes.
So we will open that up for discussion.
I have never gone to an election where there isn't a policeman already there.
Right, no, that's not what they're saying.
Yeah,
They're
so-
saying in the first paragraph that previously it was the responsibility of the chief of police.
Right, so now it's.
So now it's the responsibility of the select board
Uh,
about the motion that they wants to give us the authority to give it back to the chief of police.
Because he knows their schedule.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's just funny.
Right, right.
So we have to authorize or mandate. I guess it's not
Yes.
mandated by the board
I-
that the police.
I think there's a hair to
Department.
split there, though. I
Yeah.
don't think that's necessarily what they're asking. They're saying that it's on our authority to decide whether or not it will be police that are at this thing. And if we decide that, then it is up to the police chief to decide which specific
No,
officers.
they want
will
us
be
to
there.
give it to the police chief, right?
Well, that's, no,
That's how it reads.
their first choice is to get constables.
Yes.
But constable, I mean, there's no need to change what we're doing.
Right.
If they've given us an option,
And we actually don't have the option of using constables.
I was gonna say,
Because
what-
we don't have any other
Constable.
constables right now besides John Baker.
Right.
And an elected constable, I guess, cannot.
and anyway, they're not, I want somebody who's, trained in.
Correct.
If they're going to be providing and protecting, then I want people who.
Police
you know,
officer,
Right.
yes.
So, to me, their motion in here makes the most sense.
Yes, exactly.
And the splitting of hairs is like, it already is the chief of police, it's just not mandated by the board.
Right.
And this motion is going to give that, officially
Yes.
mandate the chief of police to assign officers, that's all.
Yeah.
I'm for the motion,
As am I,
personally.
yeah.
Yourself,
Yes.
Mr.
I
Dwyer?
have no issue at all with authorizing the police chief
Yeah,
to
Right.
maintain his previously had authority to assign
yeah.
officers to the polling place.
I'm assuming that do you know by chance, I'm assuming this motion was derived from some other legal authority that has given this as a sample motion.
I'm not.
Registrars
Yeah.
around the
I
state.
don't know that. I mean, it's.
Let's assume that it is. It certainly does what they're looking to do.
Right.
So if somebody would like to make the motion suggested by reading the motion, except for the word motion to start, then we can, unless somebody wants to discuss this further, I'm perfectly fine with the motion mandating and giving the authority about who.
So we're going to break this into two parts because they also had a second request regarding in-person early voting.
Yes,
Well.
yes,
no.
2 requests.
Okay.
Let's do.
I thought the in-person early voting was a no because they have to, 2 people have to say yes to that, and I didn't see that.
Yeah, at least 2 registrars need to
And-
recommend it, and, yeah, so
So
they
that's
denied
off
it.
the table.
Yeah.
They already, yes.
Okay.
So it's just the one.
Yep, very good. Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if somebody would make that motion,
You want us to read it?
yes, as written.
Okay, I'll read it. Move to approve a sufficient number of police officers, but not less than 1, at the polling location at every election therein to preserve order and to protect the election officers and supervisors from any interference with their duties and to aid in enforcing the law relating to elections as required by Section 72 of MGL Chapter 54, which was changed in Section 13 of Chapter 92 of the Acts of 2022. further move to designate the police chief the authority to assign specific police officers according to scheduling and availability. The town clerk will advise the police chief on the location and time the officer is needed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Number 4, discussion on next steps in response to the Architectural Preservation District Committee's denial of the Ritter Building certificate to alter. I think, Madam Town Manager, you had something in here?
I did submit a memorandum with comments that I had for
Is
the
that
board
the
for
M Select
consideration.
Board?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me go.
Well, that was new. You added that after I read.
Yes. Do you want me to read?
Sure. We want to introduce as many readers as we can tonight, so yes.
So this, I want to preface before reading this, did have a meeting, I requested a meeting with the chairman of the APDC, Colin Dwyer, to discuss the denial and the decision that they wrote. So some of these items were things that we discussed when we met, so it would not be news to them, and I haven't followed up. They did have a meeting on Thursday, so I don't know if this was discussed at their meeting on Thursday.
This past Thursday.
This past Thursday. In reference to the board's agenda item to discuss the next steps in response to the Architectural Preservation District Commission's denial of the Ritter Building Certificate to Alter application, I would like to offer the following comments. Per the APD bylaw, which is Chapter 113-8, Paragraph C, if the APDC does not achieve a majority vote that the alteration is compatible with the standards and the design guidelines, it shall make a negative determination. In making its determination, the APDC shall provide a rationale for its action, including a description of how the alteration does or does not meet the standards set forth in Chapter 113-9 and the design guidelines. In the written determination, there was not a clear description how the windows did not meet any of the design standards. The windows in the specifications from the architect were Architect Series reserved double-hung windows and designed with the Department of Interior's input for national park projects. Secondly, the storm windows, which are an interior feature of the building, are exempt under the APD bylaw 113-6, paragraph F, but was referenced as a recommendation in the APDC decision. Third, the commission wrote in their determination that they found most windows in good working order. After speaking with staff, it takes 2 people to open and close windows. So I think, I don't know how many windows that they actually, when they went around the building and reviewed, but that's not what I'm hearing from staff over at that building. Fourth, part of the work to be done to the windows is to remove the glazing compound on the exterior of the windows due to cracking, and it was determined that it contains asbestos. So I think this, obviously we can't remove the asbestos without, removing the windows as part of that. Part of the, energy efficiency, fifth. The APDC design guidelines state that when considering an alteration, property owners are rightly concerned with heat loss and energy conservation. If windows must be replaced, it is preferable that new double-paned windows that are made of wood and crafted in a similar way to antique windows are installed. While not preferable, certain non-wood construction double-paned windows may be approved provided they meet the historical design standards of those windows currently installed on the building. I would ask the APDC to reconsider our original application that proposes an architectural window and be more energy efficient than the current windows. We can ask for a mock-up window from the window manufacturer and perform a presentation to the APDC that demonstrates heat loss. Also, under the APDC decision, approval process, and the design guidelines, it states if a proposed alteration degrades the historical value of the structure, the APDC shall first determine if the alteration is necessary. Necessary alterations would include those needed to preserve the structure or parts thereof. Improved energy efficiency would also be considered necessary, as would renovation of dilapidated structures or parts thereof. In reapplying, I would include the board's position that this is a necessary alteration. 6, the architect who prepared all the drawings and specifications has since retired. He was willing to assist with us with this project until completion, but is not interested in a much larger scope that could include an analysis of each of the 20 windows, and that the town would need to transition to a new architect if this was the case. 7th, if the chosen path was to resubmit without the windows, without consulting another architect, I am not sure if this will have an impact on the other work within the application. For instance, the entire vestibule area was to be replaced to become ADA compliant. This would require further research. So those were my preliminary thoughts when I went through both the bylaw and the design guidelines and the project application itself.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I would open it up to the board on comments, additions, subtractions, editorial, whatever, on the town manager's document here. And her recommendations going forward with the CTA on the building.
If I could just summarize and make sure I understand for clarity. Basically, what this comes down to is the two options are, A, resubmit a certificate to alter minus the windows. That's A. B, resubmit with the windows, but make the case that replacement of the windows is necessary and is a necessary alteration, and that therefore that should be approved.
Correct. And there's the
Well,
third
the third-
option
Which is their
with town
option.
meeting.
The third option is to bring an article to town
Right.
meeting, asking them to overrule the CTA
Right.
denial.
Yeah.
Let me, since I still have the floor, I'll speak to that. I don't like that third option as much as one of the other two first, because I think it's premature to start going around the APDC. I want to give them due deference, and they exist for a reason. They haven't said no to resubmission, and with that, I'm deciding between the first two, but I kind of like the idea of resubmitting with the windows and making the case.
Well, their suggestion was for the CTA to be approved, please change the scope of work from replacing the existing windows to repairing and maintenance of existing windows. That's what they asked us to do to approve it.
Right, and this is a rebuttal,
Right,
so the
this
town
is-
manager's
yeah.
thing is a rebuttal
Yeah,
to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we don't know if they'll even approve.
No, we don't know. Obviously, they're not going to telegraph.
So I thought what town manager was saying was that the time that all of this process will take means that the other work won't be done, right, in a timely fashion. We now have to wait for all the other work to be done. How, do we know how long?
So that is not entirely clear, and when I read the process, if we resubmit, if we start the clock again, as far as another 90-day clock.
How quickly can we get the documentation that you have alluded to in here with, like the windows? Can we get a mock-up of the windows and get, I'm assuming there were pictures of the windows that the architect wanted to put in.
Yes, I believe, that was provided through a window manufacturer that the architect deals with.
Okay.
I mean, we're already, if I understand correctly, we're already inside the 90 days, so this isn't happening by November anyway, right? I mean,
Well, I think that if we wanted to put an article on special town meeting, I think
We have till
Just to keep all the
September.
options up there. I
And
just
if-
want to be clear.
If we, the articles have to be done by September 20th, correct? Even
They-
ours?
Yes. yeah.
Okay, so we'd have to submit it by September 20th.
Well, that's our article.
But they
yeah,
have,
yeah.
doesn't this 90-day window start again with the resubmission, and they could slow walk this past?
Yes, but
Yeah.
But that's what we're
the
trying.
option C, which you didn't initially list, which you didn't approve of, is
Right.
is open.
Is the way, okay, yep,
Okay,
okay,
yes.
and that's why we might want to do that, okay.
So,
Yep, okay.
Mr. Chair, the town manager, when was, if the certificate to alter was approved, when was the work, did you foresee it occurring?
If it was approved.
Yeah, if it was approved back on June 27th, then I would have contacted the architect to proceed with putting it out to bid.
So, put it out to bid, and conceivably, it could have been replaced before winter.
Right.
And if we wait, and we go with either the two options, to take the windows out or to leave the windows in, if we're following the bylaw, because I understand it's a gray area, but if we were gonna have complete deference to whatever decision they made, then we probably have to wait till Springtown meeting to bring it before the town to override.
If we want, right, we would get a decision before then, if we, whatever we resubmitted, if there was any resubmission.
Right.
Just again, to make the timeline
Right.
clear. Then well, if we would put it in, let's say September 1st, just to make it easier, so that would be September, October, November, they'd have to come back with a word. And if they denied it, then it would have to be 3 months, so that would be December, January, February. So we would be able to override it as a town in
In
spring.
May.
So, one of the things, if we take the windows out, then I think you could make the argument that it's a new application. If you leave the windows in and you just ask them to reconsider, it's still the same application, they're just reconsidering it.
That's a good, you bring
it
up a
falls
good
into the
point, but
90 days.
I'd want them to acknowledge that. I wanted them to acknowledge this is not a new application, this is a request for a review with additional information.
Yes.
That does not start a new clock, because we haven't started this.
Right.
We wanted a chance to them to rehear some of our rebuttals to this. I think that's an excellent point.
Right.
Yes. And I'd be fine with going with that option, considering that, with them acknowledging that it's just considering additional information on the same
clock.
application.
Yeah, the
But if
same.
it restarts the clock, then I don't think it would be worth it. I would just put it on the warrant for special town meeting,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
I agree.
I like the idea of getting them to agree that it is, and to acknowledge that it is not a new application. So do it with the windows, with the rebuttal, I'm just saying what I support here. Get them to acknowledge that we're still under the same clock. Well, I guess we can pursue that with them first, right? And before we need to decide whether we're gonna,
Well,
to try to get town meeting to override. I just don't like I'm a little bit averse to the idea. I know that some people do not approve of, they're not fans of the APDC, but they exist for a reason. They're a legitimate body. They have an authority, and I just don't like the idea of going nuclear, with a nuclear option, anytime we don't like what they decide, okay, it's time to get an override. I think we have to be deferential to legitimate authority.
I will take this opportunity to say two things on these three options. Number one is, having had discussions with the town manager and reviewing the original submission to them, that I think removing the windows, which I had originally supported and not recommended, but, pushed forward as an option, I would rescind my support from that, because it effectively, as the vestibule, which, by the way, kudos in putting the word vestibule in an article. I think it affects more than just the windows, and so I'm not willing to do that. It has too many long-term effects that we can't clean the asbestos out anyway. So these are not, I would not vote for the resubmission without the windows. So we're left with 2 and 3.
Right.
Number three, I am completely 100% with Lou, and I've said this before, is like, the town voted in the commission. If they want to vote to,
Take them away.
if we want, right, then fine, then get that passed. But I don't feel, and I was the proponent of putting the appeal option in, but again, it's got to be the issue of last resort. And I'm not convinced that at this point, that November to May is that. But I'm willing to say that I would find it fine to put it on the warrant for this November as a placeholder while we talk with them. I'm going to tell the board, if things are going, I may actually argue against it. I'm not going to commit that I'm going to argue against the appeal, because, again, I do feel strongly like Lou does, but I might argue against the article, but I'm willing to put it on as a placeholder to give the chance. The town should have the opportunity. It's their building, and we are stewards of it, and we are doing the best of our stewardship to bring it forward to them. That is my take on those three options to me.
If we get them to, well, okay, you'd still want that even if we get them to acknowledge that this is not a resubmission, we're under the same clock, just in case they deny it. You still want to have that placeholder article there, you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, well, if they review it and they get all this done by September 23rd, which is possible but unlikely, 23rd is when the warrant closes.
Yeah.
So we can always have it on and pass over it at any point
Right.
if it's on there.
Yep.
But
When
we
does-
can't open it up to put it on there.
When does their clock stop for their 90 days?
So it starts once the CTA application is submitted, received.
So that was in June?
No,
That's when
was the
they made their decision.
Okay.
That was their determination.
Their determination.
So we put it in, I
Okay.
don't know when.
Actually, it was close to 90 days prior to that.
Oh, wow.
So I think this does not have to they have, my understanding is they okayed everything in there except the windows, is that correct?
Correct.
So we're asking them for
Just
an
to-
appeal meeting
Oh, only on the windows?
to just talk about the windows and
Right.
why we feel the windows are important. From all the things, I think the town manager's argument in the memorandum that she put together are excellent. I think she's
Oh, yeah.
using lines right out of the APDC bylaws and their policies that seem to contradict what the decision was.
Yes.
It would be hard to imagine if we present this to the broader public
Exactly.
about energy efficiency.
Yep.
And the fact that these are, I don't know how old those windows are. I don't even know if those windows are original. Maybe they are. If they are, they're like 120 years old. That today's windows can look like that, but have modern standards.
Mr. Chair, I agree with the approach, and I think going back to them and presenting the information, additional information on the windows also prepares us for a presentation at special town meeting or town meeting.
Yeah, should we have?
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you need us to vote on this memorandum?
No, just I think what the next step is going to be, is to
So,
resubmit the application.
do we agree that the next step is to have the town manager contact the APDC? Or
Like
probably.
an appeal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
to see if they'll agree to an appeal hearing specifically only about the windows where we can present our counter arguments.
So they
With
would-
the understanding that this is a continuation, not a new submittal, it's a continuation of the existing. While we simultaneously have the option, we don't have to decide that on the motion, because we can do that later on.
Later.
I support that approach of,
So we would have them come to one of our meetings?
It would be at one
It
of
would
our
have
meetings.
to be one of their
Yeah,
meetings.
at one of theirs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So we would go there?
Yeah, we've done that
Okay,
previously.
okay.
Do have one further question. And forgive me for not having totally reviewed all these APDC bylaws, but so there was a submittal, then there was a decision within 90 days. What is giving us, what clock are we on now that we're calling this the same proposal? I mean, is
It's not in there.
All right.
There is no
They don't
direct
have that,
appeal.
yeah.
process. So we're in uncharted,
Yeah, so we're making this up. Essentially.
it's uncharted territory.
Hey, it's
Alright.
new.
Making it
doesn't-
up sounds
Yeah, it's just
pretty
new.
up.
It's never been done before.
Right, it's a
That
gray
does-
area.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that, well, maybe.
I mean, no one ever thought or considered an appeal process within the
During-
town.
Yes.
Without having to be a new submittal.
Right.
Or an appeal to,
Right.
All right, let me ask you this, and again, I apologize for not having reviewed all this, but is it within the APDC's authority to waive their own timeline so that we can say, hey, we're asking you to waive the timeline here, consider this a continuing application, and because then it would be explicit that it's totally legit.
I'd have to read the APDC bylaws.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole idea of what we're proposing
Is a
was never
deadline.
entertained. It's not in
Right.
the document.
I think
But we also want a deadline date.
town manager may have an answer.
Yeah, the design guidelines, there's the waiver section. The APDC may, in any particular case where such action is in the public interest and not inconsistent with the intent and purpose of rules and regulations, waive strict compliance with its rules and regulations and with the requirements herein.
There
you
it
go,
is.
it's right
So
there.
I think as part of this, we specifically asked them for an express waiver saying they are waiving the time schedule, considering this a continuation of the existing application, and then therefore we're still there.
So we should cite that, what you just read.
How this gets written into a motion, I will leave to Todd.
But don't we need a deadline? Don't we
We don't
need
have
a?
I don't
to,
think
we
we
don't
have
have to put that in a motion. We're
No.
gonna authorize the
Right.
town manager
Yes.
To go
to
back.
write
Yeah.
on behalf of the board to the APDC requesting, and then she'll put it in, she's actually a very good writer, as we found out, and known for years and years. So,
As we found out this week.
I found out just before this meeting.
So they're going to extend the 90 days, but to how long? We're asking them to waive it.
We're asking them for a meeting.
Right, but I don't know what Lou was saying though, with the
I'm
waiving
saying that there's a
of,
90-day timeline that is triggered by the filing of a CTA, of a certificate to alter. So we're way past that at this point. So, but they have the authority to waive their own rules and timelines. So I'm asking them to expressly waive the timeline so that
are we
we
way
are.
past
What do
that
you mean?
90
What do you mean?
days?
Now you're starting to confuse
Yeah,
things.
I'm very
The
confused.
90-day timeline
Yeah.
is the timeline they have from the time somebody submits
To get
a
back,
certificate to alter
Right.
to they making a determination.
and that's what,
They
they
have
took
90
the
days.
90
Yes.
days.
There's no appeal process in here
Right.
that's determined. What we're asking them for, under this waiver part, to say, listen, we want to have a
meeting.
rebuttal meeting
Right.
about this same thing. It's not a new submittal, it's just an extending one of your existing one.
Yeah, so we're saying the same thing.
Okay, but you're saying that we're well past that.
Right, like we
We
don't,
are, we are well past the 90 days for them giving in their original determination.
Oh, yeah, well, they met their guidelines, right.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
So now that we're past that 90 days, we're asking, as far as the rules strictly speaking are concerned, this is a closed, the window is closed.
Right.
We're asking them to specifically acknowledge and say, we're waiving that window, this thing is still open. And we are gonna hear your rebuttal
yep.
and then render a final determination.
Yep.
Outside that 90 days is what
Okay.
I
all
was
right.
saying the same
Gotcha.
thing.
Okay,
So,
we're saying the same thing.
yeah.
okay.
So, would somebody like to make a motion summing up?
I don't, no. That's a lot of summing.
Well, it's not, I mean, we're just authorizing the town manager, but
To reply.
Lou, would you like to make such a motion?
Yeah,
Trying to figure out how to word the darn thing.
All right, I'll make it if you want.
Go for it.
All right,
Yeah, you go.
so I would move that we authorize the town manager acting on behalf of the select board to contact the APDC for their consideration in extending the determination of this submitted CTA for one meeting so we can rebut their points, not triggering a new submission. I mean, this is an existing one. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That sum up to everybody what we
I think there needs to be
discussed?
something in there about waiving the.
Using the authority, right, using the waiver authority
Yes.
granted to them in the APDC bylaw?
bylaw, yeah.
Design guidelines.
Design guidelines, there you go. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed? None. It is unanimous. All right, now we come to the meat of the agenda, the FY23 first quarter water commitment of $12,061. Again, this is the water department, not the water district. Do we need a vote on this?
I say vote never hurts.
Vote never hurts. There you go. Anybody make a motion? I'll entertain a motion on the board signing the water commissioners,
Water commitment.
the water commitment of $12,061.73.
I move the board approve and sign the water commitment as presented.
Or a second.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Is it just one sign? Yeah. Okay. Approval of minutes of June 21st, 2022. Has everybody read such minutes? Mr. Franco and Mr. Dwyer were not here, so we cannot approve these. So let's put these on because we don't have enough signatures, because Mr. Jeffries is not here.
Just to clarify, a board can, or committee can approve minutes if you weren't present, because you're approving just a form.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if you have an entire board resign, those minutes that the previous board members were members of still have to be approved and submitted.
So we could approve them?
But in that case, you could use the
It's
rule
not
of whatever it is.
the Mullins rule that applies for.
Not Mullins,
Okay.
not Mullins, the rule of necessity. That means you'd have to approve them, because there's no way you're going to reappoint the other people to
But
approve
I
them. But
learned
this is
that-
not necessity, right?
But I did learn that at the training I went to, that we could, even if we didn't attend the meeting.
Well, we have never, I'm
Yeah.
fine with it if
I
people
know,
want
no,
it.
I just learned that,
Yeah.
so I thought that was interesting.
Seeing as it is not a necessity, and it's been our precedent not to
Right.
do
Right,
that, let's defer. It is my.
We're agreeing way too much tonight, Lou.
Yeah, well, don't get used to it.
'Cause
Um,
you're-
Believe me. Warrants, we have no warrants.
Wait, did
Oh,
we
we
vote
have
to
to s-
approve that?
What?
Did we have to vote to approve the minutes?
We didn't. I passed over it because we
Passing
can't.
over.
Oh, we're passing it, okay, pass it over.
We're going to wait for Mr. Jeffries.
Okay.
Well, we got told we can, but we're not going
Yeah,
to
okay,
break
that's why,
precedent.
I'm so confused now, okay.
These have to be signed by Mr. Jeffries
Yeah.
only?
If there's
Oh.
going to be a major break in precedent, I need at least a week's notice.
Wow.
my
Just enough time to reset the clock so we can vote at the right
Yeah,
time.
Yeah.
We'll find the legal reference too for that.
These are May and
Maybe
June
it needs to be
2022
writing.
motor vehicle excise refunds. Okay. In the amount of $4,211.18. Hard to believe we're giving back money.
I know, really.
Any action items? I won't bring up my normal action item because I saw you sent an email around. I got asked at the band concert last night about that same line painting, so. Committee reports. Ms. Roker, do you have any committee reports?
No, I do
Mr.
not.
Dwyer?
I have none.
I do. Council on Aging. Attended the meeting this morning. Good meeting. Okay, so just some clarity around sort of what they're looking to do. Well, first of all, I'll let you know, I updated them on the senior tax relief effort and where that's going. And so that it's clear to them that there is movement. This is a process. And sort of what it looks like going forward, that it is going to require special legislation once it comes out of, first it's got to come out of our working group, then it's got to go to the select board, then it requires steps beyond that. So it's by no means a short process, and so that kind of by way of expectation setting, but they know there's movement, and that's the important thing. So I think there needs to be continuous communication on that, and they felt relieved by the fact that there was just communication on that, and knowing that we haven't fallen asleep on it, there's actual stuff going on. So in furtherance of that, Principal Assessor C.J. Carroll will be attending the September 16th meeting and presenting even more detail on what's going on there. So he's appearing as sort of a guest of the meeting next time around. As far as this whole, the discussion we had last week about, okay, so now that I have more clarity on this, and this was they're looking to sort of rebrand themselves into sort of not a senior center anymore, but sort of a 50+ or adult activity center, that type of thing, so that the idea is not to label people that are 50 and 55 seniors, to get away from that, and this is sort of a movement that's going on around in general. So as part of that effort, they are actually looking to rename and rebrand, and also actually have a graphic logo that goes with that. So there's movement on that, and there's more discussion and possibly a vote by the COA, the Council on Aging, next month on that. Of course, I'm not part of this, but the COA was given sort of drafts of different name possibilities and logo options that they're going to be taking home for homework and coming back, and if they stay on schedule, voting on next month. So that's the general idea. They're looking to broaden their appeal and also to do better communication with the community as a whole. They want to maybe do at least monthly press releases in the Ledger, for example, but they were talking about weekly. There's a real misunderstanding in the community as a whole as to what it is they actually do. There was a survey that went out, and it's, and they get questions all the time, like, are you assisted living? How many residents do you have? I mean, so people really don't know what they do, and they want to they're making a full effort to sort of change that and change the perception that that what they do over there is for old bored people, essentially. That's not what they want to just change that image. So
Bustling place over there. There's
yes,
always
yes,
activities going on.
List of activities. I mean, it's tremendous. There's lots of things they do, and it's for active people. So that's what's going on.
Lou, what are you saying, that I was a senior before today? Because I go to bingo, and I'm active. But that's what Heather presented last week. She did say that they wanted to rebrand, right? Because they service 50+.
I'm glad that whatever they said calmed Lou down.
Yeah.
Because his inclusion in this
Yeah.
really bothered him last week.
It really did.
Well,
And I'm not upset at all I'm not upset at all.
Did you make a suggestion
that I
they
get
take-
to use the center. Like for me, it was like, I'm super excited that I get to go.
did I make a suggestion?
Did you make a suggestion that they take the Mark bus to the next Iron Maiden concert? Or-
Yeah. I know,
like
really.
October 17th, DCU Center, Worcester.
Seriously?
Oh, I'm there. We've got.
They
the
want to rebrand.
tickets. So, anyway, I just think it's important. There are a lot of people that have misconceptions about it, and they know that, and that was the main subject of discussion today.
Well, it's good to hear. I mean, I think that the idea of what it is to be a senior, what it is to be retired and everything is
Right.
very different. I mean, when I was growing up and my grandparents became 65 back when I was a little kid was a whole lot different than 65 now, I think, just in general. So I think we have to keep up with those. I mean, people's health seems to be much better. Their longevity is generally increasing for the most part, certainly from when we were children. So I think it's important to keep up. You don't want a certain image to be persistent from 30, 40 years ago now.
Well, exactly, and that's why they want to move away from the terminology senior. I
Right.
mean, they just want to take that out, and if they could do that, heck, I'm on board with it. So that goes to show you how effective how
Oh, my goodness.
branding and
Well, they could go down. They could go to sophomore or junior.
Yeah, right, freshman,
Freshman. There you go.
freshman center,
So,
The freshman center. I like it.
right?
it's, anyway, that's
Thank you
what's,
for
that's
that.
what's happening, yep.
Oh, my goodness, Lou. So,
The only report I had, we had the first meeting of the capital planning committee last Wednesday, where we talked about basically just the calendar of the year, which is going to be very similar that it was last year. We did talk about scoring, about how each project that's submitted gets scored, and there was some talk about changing that ever so slightly in certain areas. We'll have our next meeting probably in the beginning of October, either late September or early October, I think it is now. And then we'll start in earnest. All those forms will be sent out to the department heads, and we'll start the process again for real. We did agree that there was a comment made last year that we didn't record the meetings as they were at the Ritter, and they weren't televised, but we also didn't record them. So we're going to find, either we're going to record them on Zoom, even if we're all there present, just so it's recorded, or we'll do it using somebody's laptop and just videotaping the whole thing and then giving it to PAC to upload to Facebook. But either way, we will find a way to record them so people can follow them. Did I gather that correctly?
Yes, the only additional change to the forms is adding a category, because there were some projects that were more planning, like that for, say, design,
Right.
landscape design or engineering, that didn't receive, as high a score as the other projects. So this would kind of give a score to those projects too, to put them, if they're a necessary component for a next step in the capital.
Right, if they're a stepping stone to get to
Right, to
something
get to
larger,
something,
that would score higher, but the
Right.
design doesn't, so yes.
Okay.
Thank you. for
Got it.
Correcting that. Okay. Upcoming meetings, so next week we have a workshop. I don't have the agenda, what are we workshopping?
Meeting with the capital planning committee
Oh,
on
that's right.
ARPA
Yes,
funding, the financial policies, and appointments.
it's jam-packed, it's my fault, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Because I
it's
won't
so
be at the
jam-packed, we
20
can't even,
Well,
what did
it's
we
because-
try to schedule that we couldn't?
It's because I couldn't.
It was-
be
Lou,
at
we couldn't even do the 300th committee charge, because we
Right,
had to push that out.
It's because I won't be at the 23rd meeting,
Oh, okay.
that's why.
And then August 23rd will be our last meeting of the month. We'll be off on the 30th, as it is the last meeting. So public comment, any public comment from the public? Seeing none. Any public comment from the town manager?
No comment, thank you.
Any public comment from the board?
Have none.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye, opposed, none. We are adjourned until next week. Good night, everybody. Until such time as next week, take care of yourselves, take care of each other.